You know, some places we think we know them. We've heard a name, a story, maybe a headline from long ago. But for a country like Bosnia and Herzegovina, that single story is just one page in a book that's ancient, complex, and written right in the unseen heart of Europe. So what is this place really? Is it the dazzling host of the 1984 Winter Olympics, a name from a tragic conflict in the 1990s? Or is it that iconic image of a perfectly rebuilt bridge? Well, these are all just fragments, right? Snapshots in time. To really understand its soul, its true identity, we have to look past the headlines and start with the land itself.
And what a land it is! Before any empire or kingdom, before any border was drawn, it was simply this, the heart-shaped land. It's a foundation of mountains and rivers so powerful, so dramatic, that it has shaped every single thing that came after.
I mean, you can't understand this country without understanding its geography. You've got the Dinaric Alps, this incredible, rugged spine that cuts right through the middle, creating this moderate continental climate in the main region, Bosnia. In fact, the name Bosna probably comes from its central river, from an ancient word that just means running water. But then you go south to the smaller region of Herzegovina, and the whole landscape softens. It opens up to this warm Mediterranean sun. 50%. Just think about that number for a second. Nearly half of the entire country is covered in forest. Now, this isn't just a statistic. It speaks to the wild, almost untamed nature that still thrives here. We're talking about huge areas of untouched wilderness, something that's become so rare in Europe. It's a land that literally breathes. And it's on this wild stage that a deep and incredibly complex human history began to unfold. See, this place was never isolated. For more than 1,000 years, great empires rose and fell, and every single one left its mark, layering history into the very stone of these mountains. The rhythm of its history is just this constant, dramatic transformation. Back in the 12th century, you have an independent state, the Banat of Bosnia, begin to form. By 1377, it's grown into a powerful kingdom in the Balkans. But then comes a huge shift. In 1463, the Ottoman Empire arrives, starting 4 centuries of Eastern influence. And just when you think the story is set, it pivots again in 1878 as the Austro-Hungarian Empire brings a whole new Central European chapter. Each one of these transitions was massive, reshaping the culture from the ground up. But before those great empires took over, the original Bosnian kingdom left behind something completely unique. They're called stečji, and these are not just tombstones. They are these giant, monolithic works of art. You find them scattered by the thousands, just sitting in fields and on hillsides. They're a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and they are these silent, mysterious witnesses to a distinct medieval culture that once thrived right here. Now, all of this history, all these shifting empires and ideas, created the country's most defining feature. It became something incredibly rare in the world, a true crossroads. A place where the great faiths of the West and East didn't just meet at a border, they actually learned to live together, side by side, for centuries. And the legacy of that history is this unique religious tapestry you see today. The Ottoman era introduced Islam, which over hundreds of years became the faith of about half the population. That same era also solidified the presence of the Eastern Orthodox Church. And all of this happened in a land that already had a really deep-rooted Catholic community. The amazing thing isn't just that they all existed here, but that they grew alongside one another for so long. Just try to picture what that meant in a city like Sarajevo. You could stand on one street corner and literally see the minaret of a mosque, the bell tower of a Catholic cathedral, the dome of an Orthodox church, and nearby, the walls of a synagogue. This wasn't some kind of historical accident. For generations, this was just normal. It was the lived reality, a powerful testament to a long and complex history of coexistence. But that long history, that delicate balance, would be tested in the 20th century like never before. This new era of nationalism and immense global conflict would turn Bosnia into a crucible, forging its modern identity through tragedy and ultimately an incredible resilience. And the century's turmoil really began right here. In 1914, the assassination of the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, right on a Sarajevo street corner, well, that was the spark that lit the fuse of the First World War. In an instant, this corner of Europe was thrust onto the absolute center of the world stage. After decades as part of Yugoslavia, the end of the Cold War brought enormous pressure. As Yugoslavia began to fracture in the early 1990s, Bosnia and Herzegovina declared its own independence in 1992. But that declaration was followed almost immediately by a brutal 3-year war, which included the longest siege of a capital city in modern warfare, the Siege of Sarajevo. The conflict finally ended in late 1995. Peace arrived in the form of the Dayton Agreement. This was a hugely important moment. It stopped the violence, and crucially, it preserved Bosnia and Herzegovina as a single sovereign country. But to do that, it created an incredibly complex political structure, dividing the country's governance into 2 main entities. It was a framework that brought peace, but it also became the blueprint for the very intricate political reality of the country today. So, after a conflict like that, how does a country even begin to move forward? The story of Bosnia and Herzegovina today is one of reimagining its own future. It's about rebuilding not just bridges and buildings, but about forging a new, forward-looking identity from the ashes. And nothing tells the story of this revival quite like tourism. After 1995, it was pretty much non-existent, but the comeback has been absolutely staggering. In fact, projections from the World Tourism Organization suggested that between 1995 and 2020, the country would have one of the highest tourism growth rates on the entire planet. People were coming back, and they were eager to see the history, the culture, and that stunning nature for themselves. You can see these concrete signs of a new era everywhere you look. The Sarajevo Film Festival, which was actually born as an act of defiance during the siege, is now a major international cultural event. The country's wild heart has made it a top spot for adventure travel and ecotourism. And maybe most importantly, in 2022, it was officially recognized as a candidate country for the European Union, a clear signal of its commitment to a European future. Which leaves us with this final, profound question. After 1,000 years of kingdoms, empires, coexistence and conflict, a fracture and incredible resilience, what comes next? Can a nation that was literally forged at a crossroads, home to 3 distinct peoples, weave all of those different threads into a single shared future? The story of Bosnia and Herzegovina isn't over. The next chapter is being written right now.